First up is the new horror comedy film, and I'm going to put the comedy part in quotation marks or give it an asterisk. It's called The Monkey, and it is from director Oz Perkins. It's based on a Stephen King short story, and I think this is one of those things that probably should have stayed a short story because it does not have the goods to stretch out to be a feature-length film. It is about a set of twin brothers who find this mysterious wind-up monkey that basically causes a bunch of ridiculous deaths. And my friend Matt described this as horror's version of Jackass. And I was like, you know what? That is perfectly accurate. I felt like when they were making this movie, they had two wheels that they were spinning, and they'd be like, okay, spin wheel one, tick, 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 tick. What ridiculous, outrageous, way of murdering someone can we get away with? And then wheel two, tick, tick, tick. What random celebrity friend of ours can we get to be in this vignette? And I'm going to call it a vignette, or I guess if you're using the Jackass model, like a sketch, because it doesn't feel like there's a larger cohesive story to this. It is just a bunch of murders. And I guess if you are in the mood to watch a grotesque snuff film or a bunch of snuff films, then The Monkey is for you. But it was not for me. And I fully acknowledge, I am not the target audience for this. I don't like horror movies because I don't like getting scared. I didn't feel like I was scared by this film, which I guess is good in some senses, or I suppose you could say it makes it more accessible, but I don't know if it needs to be. But I do need there to be a plot, and I need there to be something compelling, and I need character development, or I need at least one of those things, and none of that is in The Monkey. So even if you are a horror fan, I think, I didn't get a chance to see Longlegs because I was told it would scare the crap out of me, but I know that at least has more, I think, substance to it than this does. But I did not enjoy this film. I didn't find it entertaining. It is graphic and gross, and it gave me Final Destination vibes, minus the fact that the Final Destination at least has causation or causality between what the characters have done and the events that are happening, versus this where it's just it's kind of random but kind of not, and then the rules of this universe make no sense in terms of the death, because if you think about it, if it's haunting just this family, that's one thing, but then this film turns into something much larger than that, and it just becomes, like I said, a massive snuff film. And so I don't quite understand, and I'm okay with the idea potentially of suspending disbelief and being like, yes, this, cursed monkey has abilities beyond just haunting one family, but then it has to make sense with what the family is doing surrounding them. Again, it's convoluted. It doesn't have a really coherent story or character development, and you don't particularly like anybody in it. I think Theo James does a decent job of portraying the twins. He is the primary actor in this. And then actually, to the credit of Oz Perkins, I guess, one of the twins is kind of more of a jerk, and the other one is, I suppose, our protagonist. And through the different ages that we follow this family, it's portrayed by different actors. The jerk one is poorly written across the board, and so you can tell the difference even though it's the same actor portraying them at different points. You're like, oh yeah, no, I see the difference in these characters. They are different twins, they have individuality in that sense, but it still does not a movie make. It also has Tatiana Maslany, Elijah Wood's in it, Sarah Levy, it's a shame. I don't get the sense that if you are a fan of Oz Perkins through Longlegs, that this will live up to your expectations. I don't think if you're a hardcore Stephen King fan, this will live up to your expectations. So again, like I said, unless you're looking for a series of snuff film sketches, which I guess is okay. I don't want to judge in case that's what you're looking for to disconnect, but this was certainly not for me. I'm going to give it a 1.8 out of 5. Next up is a film called Riff Raff. I actually saw this at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2024, and I have put an asterisk on every review I've done out of that festival. I was seeing about 5 movies a day, and so everything comes with a little bit of the haze of when you're at a film festival and you're seeing a bunch of stuff, and things tend to blend together. Now, I do recall Riff Raff. It is a crime thriller comedy, and I'm very sad to once again have to put comedy in quotes, although it is not necessarily trying to be like a slapstick yuck comedy. It's more of a crime thriller. It stars Jennifer Coolidge, who I was so excited to get to see in this starring role. It has Ed Harris, Gabrielle Union, Lewis Pullman, Bill Murray, and Pete Davidson, and I wanted to like this so much more than I did. I didn't dislike this film, but I think this is a film that is okay at best, that is punctuated occasionally by standout moments from the stars. Of course, anytime Jennifer Coolidge is on screen, it is fascinating to watch. I love her so much, but she's playing, within kind of her ditzy range, but also there's a more of a darkness to, I think, the character she's playing. It's about the interpersonal lives of all these criminals slash former criminals. She is the ex-wife of Ed Harris. Ed Harris has started a new family with Gabrielle Union, and it's about him trying to, like, you know, live a clean life on the up and up, but then his old family, or I guess his original family, whatever you want to call it, you know, complicates things. Louis Pullman plays his son. It's messy. And the story is supposed to be messy, and I enjoy a wonderful, complicated mess of a film when it's well crafted. This one, it's like I see all the pieces there, but there's something about it that doesn't coalesce in the end. And it's a bummer because, again, you have all these super talented people in it, and so you'd think, like, you don't attach yourself to a project like this unless you see something in it. And I'm not 100% sure where things got lost because the script is fine. The performances are okay. I think it might be the editing and the pacing of it, honestly. Again, there are amusing moments, and I think more importantly, there are actually dramatic moments out of folks like Bill Murray and Jennifer Coolidge, who, of course, are capable of playing these dramatic moments, but we've come to associate with, I think, like a zaniness or just an aloofness even to their performances. So they're definitely dialed in here, but I don't know if it's being utilized in a way that serves the story. I think the ultimate thing about this film is that it's forgettable. You know, I don't think you're going to come out of this being like, oh my God, thank God I saw all these performances or all these things. I don't think it's the worst time you're going to have at the movies. But when you're considering the time and the money and all the stuff that you're spending to go to a theater, I don't know if this is worthy of that experience. I'm sorry to say that because, again, you know, making a film is hard. No disrespect to the attempt, but if you are going to ask somebody to take that time out of their day and, you know, spend their hard-earned money and all these things, like, you want it to be worth the experience. I think if you were to watch this on streaming, totally fine. You know, I don't think you'll regret it necessarily, but I'm not strongly recommending that you run out to a theater and see this right now. And again, that's a bummer for me to say because it would have been great to be like, yes, Jennifer Coolidge is a huge movie star. And I'm not blaming Jennifer at all, you know, but I just think that she's going to be the appeal actually for a lot of people to go see this. And I don't think the rest of it holds up around her. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 because I didn't have a terrible time while watching it, but it just immediately kind of evaporated from my brain after. The other thing I have this week is a new series on Apple TV Plus. It is called Berlin ER. And I started out just going, oh, I'll watch one episode of this just to see what it's about. And I ended up watching the entire series. It will be rolling out weekly on Apple TV Plus, but I happen to have access to the whole thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed this show. It's certainly a darker medical show, and I should note it is also in German, so you do have to read subtitles unless you speak German, but I think it's worth, you know, getting over that 1-inch barrier, as Bong Joon-ho says. So it takes place in a severely underfunded ER in Germany, and things kick off when a new doctor, played by Haley Louise Jones, joins and is supposed to, you know, whip it into shape, and it's about the interpersonal relationships between the doctors and the nurses and the staff and the overlord hospital part that wants them to cut costs and all these things. It kind of gave me a grittier Nurse Jackie vibe because, you know, the characters are highly imperfect, and I don't think it's a super spoiler. I think it's in the trailers. Some of them are also on substances themselves. And I think what I kind of enjoyed about this show is that a lot of times in media, doctors get portrayed as these paragons of good, but it's like, no, they can be fallible too. That's not to say across the board, but I do think a lot of the times they are these untouchable godlike characters, and this series is more grounded. And I say this, my dad is a doctor, so I know doctors. I've known doctors my entire life, and I'm like, no, you're nothing like what we see on like ER or things like that. But I do think it gets a lot of the interpersonal kind of departmental relationships in a hospital, right? Where it's just like, yeah, a lot of this is corporate bureaucracy. It's not as glamorous as people think it is. But I think the thing that is strongest about it is the relationships and the characters and the portrayals. And then just a fair warning, like the medical stuff that we go through in it feels darker also than a lot of the things that maybe see on North American produced medical shows. I know that this is an incredibly saturated space in terms of stories, you know, the medical drama stories, but I think this is like a pretty valuable one. And it kind of also gives me a little bit of Code Black vibes from years and years ago, which is going to date me. But that was also, this series has inputs from like people who are actual ER doctors, and Code Black was similarly made. I think that one felt even more sanitized because it was on network television, and this one is really able to kind of take off the glossy sheen that is sometimes required because it is on Apple TV Plus. So Berlin ER, I think it's definitely worth a watch.